You know, the claims of EV and battery manufacturers about future capacities, ranges and charging times are getting ever more ludicrous. It's all vaporware, of course, and probably will be for a long time. Better battery technology is always just 5 years away. And they still gloss over the key point, which if you're a regular follower of the channel, you'll already be aware of, and which makes all these claims of immense range and rapid charging essentially meaningless. Unlike petrol or diesel that sits in a tank and can be pumped at whatever rate you need, this cannot be done with electricity. If you want to transfer electricity faster, you need to upgrade the entire connection to the grid to cope with that. And every change you make, faster charging, larger range, just multiplies the cost of the infrastructure. You can't get away from the fundamental physics of charging a battery, which makes these laughable claims just smoke and mirrors. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. If you'd like to support this channel and display your anti-EV credentials to your Tesla-owning neighbours at the same time, why not buy some awesome MGUY merchandise, like this mug, this baseball cap, or this t-shirt? Each high-quality item sports the MGUY No EV sign, and they're all made to order, perfect for irritating the hell out of your local EV zealots. Visit store.mguy.tv or click the link in the description to check out the full range of products. And of course, you can always just buy me a coffee. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. The problem here is remarkably simple, but electric car journalists and EV zealots either just don't get it, or alternatively, are simply willfully blind to it. Either way, it's maths that an 11-year-old could do. This is what I've talked about before and what I call the charging conundrum, which is the insurmountable physical relationship between the three factors we're talking about here: time to charge, battery capacity, i.e. EV range essentially, and the electrical power you need. If you increase the battery capacity or reduce the charging time of the battery, or both, you have to increase the power of the charger by those factors. So let's take a simple example. Say you have a typical EV battery which has a capacity of 50 kilowatt hours, and you want to charge that battery in 15 minutes. The power you need to do so is simply the capacity, 50 kilowatt hours, divided by the time, in hours, which in this case is 50 divided by 1/4, or 0.25, as 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. If you divide 50 by 0.25, you get 200, which is the power in kilowatts you need to charge that battery in 15 minutes. Even 200 kilowatts is a lot of power, and not many chargers get to that in real life. But if you wish to either reduce that charging time or increase the battery capacity, or both, the power you need to do so escalates rapidly. Let's say you want to double the range of your EV and charge it in 10 minutes instead. Now we have a 100 kilowatt hour battery and we need to charge that in 1/6 of an hour. Do the calculation again and suddenly you need 600 kilowatts. The power has increased by a factor of 3. And as the capacity goes up and the time goes down, the power spirals up at a terrifying rate. Where is this electricity supposed to come from? Windmills and solar panels? And the cost of a 600 kilowatt connection to the grid isn't exactly negligible either. What price would they need to put on each kilowatt hour delivered at that kind of power just to break even? And don't forget, of course, that if you double the capacity of the battery, you also double the weight, or almost double at least. So the range that you're going to get from that battery is never going to get close to double the original, as you're dragging that dead weight around with you. It's a case of massively diminishing returns. Just think about all this as we look at these examples of journalists hyperventilating about ridiculous battery claims from just the last couple of days. And note the one thing that's barely ever mentioned in these articles. An electric car with 3,000 kilometers driving range. Huge battery development in China could be a game changer for Chinese companies such as Xiaomi and NIO and prove a thorn in the side for BYD. This new electric vehicle patent could change everything. Chinese firm Huawei, which was famously banned from being part of Australia's 5G infrastructure rollout over security fears, has just revealed what could be the biggest battery breakthrough yet. Its latest patent application regarding a sulfide-based solid-state battery claims it can have a driving range of up to 3,000 kilometers and be charged in 5 minutes. This move by the tech company shows its attempt to wrest control of this lucrative and growing industry away from heavyweights BYD, Cattle, LG and Panasonic. Solid-state batteries are thought to be the silver bullet to mass electric car adoption. The cells are smaller, lighter, more energy dense and less prone to fire than conventional batteries. Chinese car makers and vehicle component companies are at the forefront of solid-state battery development. These companies talk a big game but have yet to actually detail or showcase these futuristic cells in the real world. Like I said, they're always 5 years away. And here's the one very tiny caveat that's buried in the article. Huawei's claims are untested and unproven, and there is currently no infrastructure that can sustain charging rates to top up a battery at that speed, and 3,000 kilometers is likely to be far more than any electric car needs. No, of course there isn't any infrastructure, and there never will be in the foreseeable future. If you assume a generous estimate of 7 kilometers range for every kilowatt hour, a battery with a 3,000 kilometer range would need a battery size of over 400 kilowatt hours. And to charge that in 5 minutes would need an almost unimaginable 5 megawatts of charging power for one car. As you can see, these numbers become very, very silly very, very quickly. Because no matter how much spin you put on it, you can't escape the fundamental physics of the charging conundrum. And this other story is equally ridiculous for other reasons, as you'll see. This EV battery fully recharges in just 18 seconds, and it just got the green light for mass production. The British VariVolt battery has been granted the certification needed so it can be manufactured on a large scale, meaning more EV makers can use them in their cars. A British firm has received approval to mass produce an ultra-high power density electric vehicle EV battery that can be fully recharged in just 18 seconds. The RML Group was granted conformity of production certification for its VariVolt battery on June the 2nd. This government approval signifies that the firm can mass produce the powerful batteries for EV manufacturers. The certification underlines our readiness to move from prototyping and niche volumes to supporting larger production contracts, James Arkell, the head of powertrain at RML Group, said in a statement. Well, even for a tiny 10 kilowatt hour battery that would give you at best 70 kilometers of range, you're looking at 2 megawatts of power. Again, if you reduce the charging time by that amount, the power required spirals upwards exponentially. A modest 50 kilowatt hour battery would require 10 megawatts. These two stories perfectly demonstrate how increasing capacity or decreasing charging time both massively increase the power required for charging. And when you increase charging power, there are substantial costs and limitations in doing so. The infrastructure is hugely expensive, and there are areas where such power is just not available. You might be able to install a 5 megawatt charger at a dealership for demonstration purposes, to fool the punters into thinking that this is what their real-world experience will be like. But scaling that up to any significant degree would be unimaginably expensive, and in practice will simply not happen. So whenever you read these kind of stories that promise ridiculously short charging times and huge EV ranges, just ask yourself the very simple question: where's the electricity coming from? Thanks very much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any tips or stories, go there. If you'd like to watch another video, go there. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, go there. And please subscribe to the channel.